Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Advanced Warfare In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the BAL-27 and is it too strong? Is this gun overpowered? Does it need a little touch of the nerf hammer? Those are largely opinionated things, but we're going to talk about the hard facts and stats of the weapon before we move into that. The gameplay that you're seeing is, of course, me using the BAL-27 with a red dot sight, stock, and grip, my favorite loadout. I'm playing Momentum right now. The enemies are pretty average, if not a little bit more on the annoying side. For whatever reason, it kind of turned into a quick-scoping match, and then some dude broke out his noob tube, so it got a little bit crazy, but you're going to get to see me use the gun at long range, medium range, and Hipfire up close, which will be important later. You'll get to see a little bit of the BAL of duty. But for now, let's talk about the stats. These have all been hand tested and hand collected, so there is the potential for error, though I do feel that I'm pretty good at this by now, so my stats are probably on point. It'll deal 40 damage per shot in close quarters combat, but drop off to 24 at a distance. That means it'll be a 3-shot kill up close, or a 5-shot kill at long ranges, just kind of depending on how far away you are. The range on this gun is probably about average for assault rifles. It's comparative at this point. I don't have hard numbers or meters just yet, but do keep in mind there's nothing really special about its range. Headshots will deal 1.1x bonus damage, which won't make it a 2-shot headshot up close, unfortunately, but it will make it, you can get some 1 less shots to kills at certain ranges, certain distances, some things like that, but overall not a very significant headshot multiplier, and I found headshots not to be the way to go with the BAL. The rate of fire is probably the crazy thing on this weapon because it kind of ramps up and accelerates over time. If you read the little tooltip above the weapon, it says it fires faster over time. This one gave me fits, hand testing, absolute fits, because the feel of the weapon is that it shot incredibly fast. If you don't know anything about Call of Duty games in the past, or if you haven't seen my episodes on frame rounding, your rate of fire of the guns is tied to your frames per second, and they all need to be nice numbers because you can get rounding errors and you can get inconsistent shots from frame to frame, but we do get some of that as the gun winds up, so it makes it difficult to measure. But the best that I've got is that the standard BAL, not the variants or anything, starts at 600 RPM. That means the first one, there do have to be 2 bullets to have a rate of fire, not just one, will be firing at 600 RPM. It'll wind up very quickly to about 720 RPM, give or take a little bit on the rounding, and the average of all of that is going to be 700 RPM, with the exception of the first shots, and what I'm going to talk about in a minute. The actual last shots, it's going to be shooting at about 720 RPM, which is not exceedingly fast for assault rifles, especially not compared to other previous Call of Duty games. It takes about 8 rounds to hit that maximum RPM, and for whatever reason, the last 5-ish rounds slow down a bit, so it's going to go from 600 to 700 in about 8, maybe 7 rounds. It's a little bit difficult to measure, and the last 5 or so rounds are going to slow back down to about 650. It's not going back down to 600 flat, but it is going to slow down just a bit. Thought you should kind of keep that in mind. I don't know why it does that. I don't know why the last ones aren't firing quite as fast. The recoil on the BAL is low, mostly vertical, and easy to control, or at least it's very easy to control with a foregrip. If left completely unchecked, it drifts up. It wobbles a little bit side to side, but more or less just kind of straight up, so even it wouldn't really matter how much it kicked. It's pretty easy to control just by pulling it back down, and the foregrip, as you've seen in the foregrip episode of In Depth, is very, very effective, so it's not a weapon that you should have a lot of accuracy difficulty with. You'll get a little, it's a little wobbly here and there, but not too bad. One thing I did notice is that the optics, like red dot sight, holographic sight, whatever, they shake more than I would expect them to, because no matter how much they shake, it's still very accurate, and it kind of reminds me of the AK-47 from Modern Warfare 3, if you remember. Whenever you put red dot sights on the gun for whatever reason, the red dots would wobble up and down and shake kind of violently, even though it was still firing very, very accurately. And I think we have the same thing going on with the BAL-27 here, is that the red dots and optics, they have a tendency to bounce up and down, like really, really fast, and it's a vertical bounce, so it's still pretty easy to aim, but the accuracy is overall higher than that. It's just, don't get fooled by the little red dot bouncing. It's a very accurate weapon. Not sure how interesting you'll find it, but the raise and drop times are 1.35 seconds and 0.6 seconds respectively. That's how fast it takes to raise the gun or draw it, and the drop time is how fast you can put it away to something else. Without a whole stat chart, that's not something very significant. Only thing to note is that the raise time is a little bit slow, but the weapon swap time to whatever your secondary is actually pretty fast, but that's kind of common for these sort of things. Reload times, I again don't have a full chart, so I don't know comparatively. It'll reload or do a speed reload in 1.37 seconds, and it'll do a full reload or a slow reload in 2.30 seconds. That's if you were double tapping the reload or not double tapping it. I don't don't know what to compare that to, but it seems like that would be pretty average for assault rifles. I'm not really seeing anything crazy about that. The one thing that is crazy about this weapon that I do believe warrants most of our attention is that the Hipfire is very good for an assault rifle. I don't think its crosshairs are naturally tighter than any of the other ones, or that it's got any sort of special or magical properties, but for whatever reason, when I handle this weapon, when I use it, my personal experience and feel is that the Hipfire is very solid for an assault rifle, and I think that has to do with the rate of fire and what it's comparing to, which is usually SMGs. SMGs are usually the way to go with Hipfire, but in this game I tend to prefer the Hipfire and the BAL more than the SMGs, and that's where we're hitting the opinion part of this in-depth episode. We're kind of stripping away from facts, and I'm going to give you my opinion on if the BAL is too strong or not. And again, I think that the Hipfire is stronger than most of the SMGs. The joke goes right now, what's the best submachine gun in Advanced Warfare? Well, the best submachine gun in Advanced Warfare is the BAL, obviously. It's not more accurate than the SMGs, and that the crosshairs aren't tighter, or that your screen doesn't shake more or less, but the Hipfire just works better, and I feel that there's a very specific technical reason for why it works better. SMGs in this game are highly mobile, but they're not really like heavy hitting up close. We don't have too many SMGs that kind of dump truck people when you get in close range. Most of them are 4-shot kills. Comparatively, the BAL is a 3-shot kill and shoots at 720 RPM. The strongest submachine gun that kills the fastest up close is going to be the KF5, which is a 3-shot kill at 750 RPM, and that's only if it's in that first 5 shots that have bonus damage, and that's a very minor speed increase. The ASM-1 will also kill in 3 shots and shoot at 721, which is the same as the BAL-27, but it has less range, and it slows down after those first 3 shots. So if you don't get it for, well, it's like 5 or 6, so if you don't get in those first 3 shots, the rate of fire is going to decrease, which kind of makes it a little bit screwball. The BAL can 3-shot people at similar speeds as these other guns, but without the downside of having to worry if it's the first couple shots or not. Albeit the Hipfire is not as accurate. None of the other guns come close. A lot of the other ones are 4-shot kills, and the rate of fire is nothing to write home about, you know, 720 or 880 or something like that. It's not going to beat the time to kill of the BL. Now, the Akimbos will do crazy stuff. Headshots, of course, will be crazy, and the AMR-9, the AMR is a little bit difficult to test. We're not going to get into the burst SMG, but as you can see, it's very competitive with the Hipfire on the submachine guns, and if I wanted to Hipfire people, the BAL is the way to go. And another thing to consider is that, okay, they're all 3-shot kills, but the BAL has like double or triple the range of the SMG, so if I'm hipfiring, I'm more likely to get a 3-shot hipfire kill, you know, at kind of medium-ish ranges than I would with the SMGs. So and when it comes to other assault rifles, I feel like the BAL is slightly stronger than those two. There are assault rifles that shoot faster or deal more damage or more accurate or something like that, but the BAL is usually better than them in some way or another. Like the BAL, like the IMR shoots faster than the BAL, but it's burst fire. The HBR is more accurate than the BAL, only with foregrip, little asterisk right there, but it shoots slower. The AK-12 is more accurate, but it deals less damage, even though it shoots at the same speed. So the BAL is hitting this really nice balance of rate of fire, damage, accuracy, dependability, not burst fire, all these sort of things, and is out-edging the other assault rifles just by a little bit, so of course it's going to be the more popular one. I do think the other assault rifles in this game are very strong. I think the IMR is a fantastic weapon. I personally like the HBR just because of how accurate it is, and it deals more damage than the AK-12. The AK-12 shoots a little faster, deals a little bit less damage, very solid fielding. I don't really care for the MK-14 at all. The other guns are good, but the BAL is just a little bit more competitive than them. And the thing that I hear very often is that this gun is the new FAMAS. This gun is the new whatever gun from previous Call of Duty games was totally broken or overpowered. And that's actually not true. Statistically speaking, other than the recoil, now we all know that assault rifles don't sway and they don't have a lot of recoil in this game, but just sheer time to kill wise, the BAL and most of the assault rifles and submachine guns in this game are actually less competitive than the ones in the previous games, or they kill slower. The BAL is weaker than the FAMAS from Modern Warfare 2 and from Black Ops 1. The MW2 one would like 2-shot people and had almost no recoil. The FAMAS from Black Ops 1 would shoot at over 900 RPM and dealt very similar damage to the BAL, so of course it would kill faster. The Type 95 again would 2-shot people from Modern Warfare 3. A lot of things in Modern Warfare 3 would just like nuke people. And even the MTAR from Black Ops 2, which was by no means considered a good or competitive weapon, is actually a little bit stronger than the BAL because it has the same shots to kill. It shoots overall at a higher fire rate. Their max rates are the same, but the MTAR has no windup, and the ranges are similar. The recoil might actually be a little bit more on the MTAR, but again, I would probably rather have the MTAR in this game than the BAL in the other one. It's really not that amazing of a weapon. So at this point you're probably saying, well then Drifter, if the BAL is so not amazing, then how come everybody uses it and it melts me and you're using it and you've said it's good before and you just made a video called Battle of Duty? The reality is not that the BAL is super strong. Rather, its competitors are too weak. The BAL has no like really hard, scary competitors. Not a lot of ones with trade-offs right now. There are other guns I like. I use the KF5 a lot. I use the MP11 a lot. I'll actually use the IMR and some other ones. But as far as when you have to pick a go-to clutch weapon that kind of works in all situations, the BAL is an all-situation, rough-and-tumble gun that maybe doesn't overpower others and that it can't be beaten and it's better than everything in every situation, but it's good in every situation, so people use it all the time. Do I think it needs a nerf? Maybe. I think it would be better to buff some of the other guns, especially in the submachine gun department, than nerf the BAL. Or I think the BAL could get a huge nerf if we just touched on the Hipfire. Like if we made it have dumpy Hipfire, I think it'd be a much less competitive gun if you just like take that not the nerf hammer, and just smack those crosshairs a little bit and give it dumpy hipfire. That would make it a much more balanced weapon. That's all for this in-depth episode. If you don't agree with me, you can make up your own opinions, your own minds. Tell me in the comments, discuss it. Let's be civil and not crazy. But that's it for the episode. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. The previous episode was on Exo Stim. You can click the box on the left. That'll open in a new window. The next episode is going to be on Exo Shield. That'll be done in a day or two, maybe. Not entirely sure. You can click the box on the right. That'll open in a new window. And again, as always, if you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe. Drifter out.